Hey y'all, I really need to get better about this. So today's video is going to be a little different because, it's clearly gonna be a lot longer than usual. I've been wanting to try and see how a longer video might do, though I'm not sure how well this one will do, because I'm sure the content of it will be a big factor. But this one will also be another process of a reference sheet, and I'm gonna try to take you through my design process. Today's video also features an OC I made relatively recently, at least in comparison to some others anyway, and her name is Suluk. I've been drawing a lot of cats lately, and as great as they are, as much as I adore the characters, I've been more than happy to draw, especially for others. It's been too much lately. Plus, part of me was starting to feel like people only saw me as a cat artist, which I'm not. I'm an animal artist, and on top of that, I love to experiment outside of my usual range where I feel comfortable-ish, sort of, experimenting. Of course, I don't mind if people prefer one thing over the other when it comes to my art, but I don't want to have just one subject. That's what I'm trying to get at. So, Suluk, hi Leia. Hi, you're looking at me weird. So, Suluk needing a new design and fuller ref was sort of the perfect breaker in that whole cycle. I do have another canine who could do with a new design and better reference too, so I may make her one as well, maybe. We'll see. But anyway, we should probably get into the actual video itself, and hopefully my words will make some sense explaining things. We'll see. I don't really know. Maybe not. For someone who likes to ramble, I really don't cover a whole lot of ground in speaking terms in these videos, so that's awesome, because this first part is still in the lining and sketching process. But at this point, I didn't want to change her physical shaping too much from her original look. Suluk is a lone wolf by choice, and I wanted her to have a feminine appearance, I guess you would call it. I don't know. She is a tough character. She's very stubborn and doesn't often yield to anything or anyone. She's not confrontational, but she's not really someone who likes to be bossed around, essentially. You'll also see this later, but to clarify why I don't draw one of her irises is because she's blind in that eye from past physical trauma. I based the physical appearance of that off of that other canine character of mine I mentioned, and that from an owl named Zeus. I'm sure most have seen him before online, but basically his eyes look like the night sky. I looked into it because I was curious, and the explanation was essentially that it was caused due to a physical trauma of some kind. They weren't sure how exactly, because I believe the rescue that found him didn't really discover him before the fact of that trauma. So anyway, I'll try to remember to link out to his Instagram in the description so you all can check him out. He's a cool little dude. I'd like to try drawing him sometime. I think I need to get better at avians too in general, so that'll be interesting. All that aside, this next part coming up, finally, will be the colors. The design process for me can be very flipsy-flopsy. It's not really so straightforward, so I might do multiple layers of the color on alpha lock, which just locks the layer so that you don't color outside of what's already there. Anyway, but I do this to experiment with it until I can get it where I want it and where I'm content with it and what looks nice to me. Initially, I was just following her original design to start. I knew I wanted to have more sharp, angular type markings on her face. I can't remember the right term for that type of design. Like, there's geometric designs. The one I'm thinking of starts with an A, I'm pretty sure. It's not asymmetrical. There's others. I am a professional. Psych. Anyway, after I had fiddled with her face in the first side view here, I went on to make slight adjustments in her body to try and make it more visually pleasing, but I liked the linear, sharp line look so much that I decided to start to play with it throughout the rest of her coat, whatever. I didn't keep every element in this first part though, as I moved on to the next side view, which you'll see soon. Her body there was more in view and straightened out, which made it a little easier to focus on the design there, since having her sitting kind of bends the body and manipulates the view of the design, and the way coat and skin works just makes it stretch and then squish and whatever, which I probably don't need to explain, but bear with me. I'm an annoying Aquarius. Apparently that's in our nature or something. I don't know. No offense to other Aquarius peeps. I'm only mocking myself, not you, I swear. I promise. Toward the end of this part, though, I knew I was gonna have to play with it in the other view because I just didn't like how it was looking. It didn't have as strong of a look to me. I don't know why. Or, well, I know why, but I don't know how to explain it. Some places were just too not good enough and weak to me, especially over the ribs or flank area, which is okay when you're working through it. That's part of the process and it can be changed, which I find myself having to constantly remind myself while drawing because I'm a product of my environment and therefore a perfectionist, so that's awesome. But that's okay too, because I'm working on not doing that so much, which is the process in itself. Hopefully I'll get better at that, but if you get easily frustrated or picky about your art too, remember to take breaks and try not to let it get to you too much. Sometimes we need to step away and come back to get a better perspective. Other times it's just something that requires a skill set we don't have yet. We all have room to grow and learn something new that might be a better method, or maybe it's something we shouldn't do anymore. A big thing I'd say is learn and practice avoiding comparing your art to others. It's really easy to do, and it's not something that can really be done permanently. That's sort of the nature of the mind when we want to be better, at least for a lot of people. That doesn't mean others' art can't be helpful either. Everybody's learning process and approach is going to be different. Just because it might take person A 5 minutes and person B an hour to learn the same thing doesn't mean person B is bad at it or that person A is inherently better. Letting myself just focus on learning, adapting, and experimenting in areas I really liked helped me a lot. And I feel like I began to improve significantly once I stopped comparing art, comparing the numbers, focusing on the numbers, and all that mess. I still slip up because I keep wanting to improve, and when you don't, it can be the sort of panicky feeling, I guess. But essentially, practice patience with yourself and your art. If you need to, step back for a week or two, maybe even a month if you can, from socials or whatever, and use books or use art books or actual photos or whatever to just let your mind have a break, especially specifically with your art, but also for yourself too. Like, honestly, if you can take a break from socials to have that mental rest, it helps so much. I recommend it heavily. But try to focus on what you enjoy about art. Sometimes we need a break from art altogether to get better at it. I know they push that whole practice every day thing, which can be helpful, but it's also tiring on a lot of people's minds. So if you can handle that, do it. But if you start having that mental drain again, maybe take a break, because that's only gonna hurt you in the long run, or at least for a while. It depends for all of us. I got really sidetracked there, but I hope that helps anyone who might feel stuck with their art lately or at any time. I know socials and comparison issues aren't always the culprit behind that, but it's let's say a repeat offender for a lot of us, so. But to get back on topic with this video, once I figured out her side markings, I started popping in her white chest marking and coloring in her eyes a little bit and adding the crescent moon shape around her right eye. or the left eye when you're viewing it. And then after that, I decided I would take a little bit of inspiration from one of my commissioners in the past and draw her in her younger form. Younger ages, I guess. So I sketched those out really quick. And then I started lining her headshot a little more properly because I was frustrated. Wow. I was frustrated with the way the sketch for the headshot was looking in the beginning. So I kind of put it off and focused on the full bodies for a little bit. So then I came back to it a few days later because I don't know how many days this took me to draw, but rough sheets take me days. So this one is a little more fleshed out than normal since she's a personal character. And also since she's a personal character, it's a little more of a chance to kind of experiment with the layout and what I'm kind of capable of doing. Oh, before I forget, we're kind of at the part where I need a moment of silence for this part because my stupid head decided not to use this for whatever reason, even though I really liked it because it didn't look juvenile enough or something, and I just... I'm probably gonna reuse it eventually anyway, but I say that a lot, so at least it had its moment somewhere. Moving on, I did new sketches of her as a juvenile and as a pup. The idea with the first one was to show she was once more carefree and goofy a little bit. I really wish I had stuck to that one before, but it did feel slightly older in a way than I wanted. I don't know why. Too late now, I guess. As for the puppy version, I did want her to look more like a few weeks older than an almost newborn. I should have made her legs a little thicker there, but again, too late. I lined those and then I got to coloring everything else again. With her younger appearances, I wanted to imitate actual wolves' coats, and over their lifetime they tend to phase as they get older. Obviously, that's what I just said. So I figured it'd be interesting to show what she would have looked like before as compared to now. And then I decided to add in her color palettes. I kept it a simple shape here for her coat colors and decided to quickly do line art of both eyes to show what they might look like in a more realistic approach. I don't know why I decided that, but there you go. I also noticed I forgot to color in her ears within the tufts there, and then I added her moon marking on her headshot. I added depth to her eyes on that, and then I got to doing what I said before on her younger line art selves. As for when I got to that part, I started on the puppy stage first. For that, I wanted to simplify her adult design down and sort of shrink the amount of lighter colors and let the darker shades be more dominant at this stage. At these ages is when she would have still had sight in her left eye, so they were colored to match her right eye. To clarify, though, also, as a side note, she is a black wolf. One thing a lot of artists have done that I am also guilty of a lot, is try to use literal pitch black for color on their characters, or it's too much darkness and not balanced out enough. In certain styles, this can work, but generally I find this is usually best for more cartoonish styles with usually less details in the line art, so you can color them in with gray, and that kind of balances it out to define them a little bit better. I know that can be a frustrating conflict between commissioners and artists at times, especially if their art just doesn't have the same effects when colored. I personally don't often do that unless it's a dark brown or much darker version of the color. I also tend to try and keep the line art around the eyes, nose, and brows black to help make it pop a bit more. Though I do like to color the lashes sometimes differently, like the actual lashes, and then I might do line art around them. But anyway, I know this sometimes causes artists to color the character a dark gray to help balance it out, but that's generally meant to represent the color black. Plus, if you play with other colors to balance it out, it can give a better illusion of a darker color, whatever. I also don't like using pure white as a color anymore, even in the eyes, really. I'll do it if it's a commission, essentially. And it's not a bad design, but it gives a more natural white color if you do something that's like off-white gray. I technically use a light gray of some kind. It might have a little bit of a tint to it, like a tannish or bluish tint, sort of, or even pinkish. And against darker colors, it makes it appear white. I would recommend studying character designs from actual pros and whatnot in the field to get a better idea of how they use colors, though, because this is just some stuff I picked up over the years. Anyhow, once I got to the juvenile stage, I started coloring her more closely to her adult stage's appearance, so I spread out the lighter colors on her body here to show she starts lightening up a bit. Ironically, her personality starts doing the exact opposite, probably around that time. I don't really know. I didn't get that far yet, but yeah. And now we have made it to the part of cruel and unusual punishment. I'm kidding. Mostly. This is a part of digital painting. Sometimes this can be fun for me. Other times, if I've been doing it a lot, it can get frustrating because of how time-consuming it is. And I like to work faster, and I just haven't been lately. So it's just a slow process, and it drives me nuts a little bit. But this was one of the longer parts of the whole time lapse itself. I did speed it up, but it's still pretty lengthy. The amount of times I've been asked to do a fur tutorial is also a lot, to be honest, and honestly I don't know how I would explain it, but I figured I'd set it as a goal on Patreon. Once I get 15 patrons, I'll work out some kind of tutorial, and I figured I'd do a shorter one, release it on YouTube for everybody, and maybe on Instagram, and a very short one, maybe. I don't know how I would do that. But anyway, and then maybe a more thorough explanation on Patreon, I guess. Maybe with like a visual or something, or like a written out, whatever. Just putting that out there. After that, I struggled with the background a lot, of course, and deciding what and how to go about it, as always, and eventually decided to go for a foresty thing because she's a wolf. So yeah, I did a few leaves, and then I let my impatience take me down the lane of shortcuts by copying and pasting and shrinking and enlarging and turning and flipping it until it filled the scene. So that's a trick to do, I guess, because it kind of worked, sort of, I guess. If then let me know. And then I started blurring them at different levels to mimic distance and depth, and also because I don't do a whole lot of detail and backgrounds at the moment still, so I blur it all a little bit to make it look a little nicer. After that, I do some little block thingies and shape it to be a little more aerodynamic by cutting out sort of lines and blocks, I guess, to help pop out the full bodies and the information around her and the characters in general from my rough sheets. And then I give the figures a glow behind them usually to make it pop some more. I don't have a very wide vocabulary apparently. And then I add final details around with labels and things like that. Overall, it's clearly a very detailed and thorough type of thing. I don't know why I've always really liked details, but that's just how it goes for me. So rough sheets tend to take me like 3 to 4 days at least, sometimes longer. For something a little more detailed with more figures and everything like that, probably took me a week, maybe a little more. I can't remember anymore. But sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's frustrating, but that's just kind of how life goes. So with all that being said, we are pulling closer and closer into the end of this video, and I'm gonna stall for a while, and my dog is whining. It's okay, we are almost done here. Listen, I hope I hope this aligns to the end. So, drink your water, you stinky heathens. Do it now, at least a sip. You too, Leia. Sip some high quality H2O. Please. Water yourself like you water your plants, or how you water your animals. Don't inhale it. I know, we're so close to the end, but hydrate yourself, or I'll take away your zodiac privileges. All your astrology powers belong to me. I'm not funny. I don't know why I'm doing this. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you for tolerating my voice and my rambles and my general stupidity, and just for watching. She is probably expressing y'all's frustrations with me. She just wants to get out of my room. I'm about to let her out, I promise, right after this. I really appreciate it so much for y'all watching, and y'all are precious just for that fact. Thank you so much. For my current patrons, your support means the world to me, and you'll all be invited to my wedding with the moon, unless I become the moon. I haven't decided yet, but I wish you the prettiest nights of moonlight ever. For this video's question, was this explanation at all helpful? I am genuinely curious, so please let me know. Other than that, I hope y'all have an awesome day. Again, be patient with yourselves. Hydrate. I'm looking at all of you other people like me who do not hydrate regularly. Hydrate. Yes, I'm doing that right now. I know. And bye-bye.